Australia's musical story begins a very long time ago. It starts with the indigenous peoples of this land. They have the oldest continuous musical traditions in the world. Their music has been played for tens of thousands of years. This music is deeply connected to the land, spirituality, and daily life. It tells stories passed down through many generations. These sounds are a vital part of Australia's heritage. We must listen carefully to understand their importance. This ancient music forms the true foundation of Australia's diverse soundscape. One of the most famous indigenous instruments is the didgeridoo. It is a long wooden wind instrument. It produces a unique, low, droning sound. Traditionally, it was made from tree branches hollowed out by termites. Playing the didgeridoo requires a special breathing technique called circular breathing. This allows the player to make a continuous sound for a long time. The didgeridoo is often used in ceremonies. It can also accompany songs and dances. Its sound is like the voice of the land itself for many people. Indigenous Australian music also uses other important instruments. Clapsticks are very common. These are usually two pieces of hardwood. They are struck together to create a sharp rhythmic beat. These beats provide a pulse for songs and dances. Sometimes boomerangs are also clapped together for rhythm. Skin drums were used in some northern regions. People also use their bodies to make music, by clapping hands or slapping thighs. These percussive sounds are essential to the structure of many indigenous songs. Music is central to indigenous Australian culture for many reasons. It is not just entertainment. It is a way of teaching history and lore. Songs can map out the land and its sacred sites. They tell of the dream time, the creation period. Music is used in important ceremonies like initiations or funerals. It helps to connect people to their ancestors and to the spiritual world. The songs and dances maintain cultural identity. They ensure that ancient knowledge continues to live. This makes indigenous music incredibly rich and meaningful. When European settlers arrived in Australia from 1788, they brought their own music. This music was very different from indigenous traditions. The settlers came mainly from Great Britain and Ireland. They carried with them folk songs, sea shanties and hymns. These songs often spoke of their old homes. They also told stories of the difficult journey by sea. Military bands were also present in the early colonies. They played marches and formal music for official events. This marked a big change in the sound of Australia. The music of the early European settlers reflected their new lives. Convicts sang songs about their hardships and their longing for freedom. Free settlers brought instruments like fiddles, flutes, and accordions. These were used for dances and social gatherings in small communities. Bush ballads became popular. These songs told stories of life in the Australian outback. They spoke of shearers, drovers, and bushrangers. This music started to create a new, distinctly Australian folk tradition. It was a way for people to share their experiences in a new land. As the colonies grew, more formal types of European music arrived. Wealthier settlers wanted to hear classical music. They imported pianos and other orchestral instruments. Concerts and musical societies began to form in the growing towns and cities. Opera singers and musicians from Europe toured Australia. This introduced symphonies, operas, and chamber music to the Australian public. Music education also began, based on European models. This classical tradition became an important part of urban culture. It was seen as a sign of sophistication. The arrival of European music had a big impact. For a long time, it often overshadowed indigenous music. The new settlers did not always understand or value the ancient traditions. However, slowly, a uniquely Australian musical landscape began to emerge. Some European folk songs started to take on Australian themes. New instruments became common across the continent. The sounds of Europe were being adapted to a new environment. This period laid the groundwork for further musical developments. It was a time of musical mixing, and sometimes musical conflict, shaping what was to come. Over time, Australians began to create music that was truly their own. Australian folk music grew strong. It told stories about the Australian experience. Singers like Banjo Patterson, though more a poet, had his words set to music. These songs spoke of the bush, the struggles, and the unique character of the people. Slim Dusty became a very important figure in this area later on. He sang about life in rural Australia. This music helped to build a sense of national identity. It connected people through shared stories and melodies. This was a crucial step. Country music also found a home in Australia. It was influenced by American country and Western music. But Australian country music developed its own style. It often focused on Australian themes and landscapes. Artists sang about the outback, farming life, and local heroes. The Tamworth Country Music Festival became a major event. It showcases the best of Australian country talent. This genre remains very popular, especially in regional areas. It speaks to a particular part of the Australian heart. It is a sound that many connect with the spirit of the land. In the mid-20th century, rock and roll music arrived. It came from America and Britain, and young Australians loved it. Local bands started to form, playing their own versions of rock and roll. Johnny O'Keefe was one of Australia's first rock stars. He was known for his wild energy on stage. Many other bands followed, creating a lively pub rock scene. This was music played in hotels and pubs across the country. It was loud, energetic, and very popular. Australian rock music began to develop its own sound, distinct from overseas styles. Pop music also grew quickly in Australia. Australian singers and bands started to have hits. Some even became famous internationally. The Easy Beats were one of the first Australian bands to have a big hit overseas in the 1960s. Olivia Newton-John became a global superstar in the 1970s and 1980s. Australian pop music covered many styles. It ranged from catchy tunes to heartfelt ballads. The music industry in Australia grew. It supported these artists and helped them reach wider audiences. This was an exciting time for Australian music on the world stage. Many Australian musicians have become famous all over the world. Bands like AC/DC are known globally for their hard rock sound. Their music is played in stadiums everywhere. INXS, with their charismatic frontman Michael Hutchence, had many international hits. Kylie Minogue is a pop icon, famous for her catchy songs and performances. More recently, artists like Sia and Gautier have achieved huge global success. These musicians have shown that Australian talent can compete with the best in the world. They have put Australian music firmly on the global map, inspiring new generations. The success of Australian artists continues today across many genres. The Australian music industry is strong. It supports a wide range of musicians. From indie rock bands to electronic music producers, Australians are making innovative sounds. Hip-hop has also become a major force in Australian music. Indigenous hip-hop artists in particular are using the genre to tell powerful stories. Music festivals are a big part of the culture. They showcase both local and international talent. There is always something new and exciting to discover in Australian music. This vibrancy is a testament to its ongoing evolution. Today, Australia's music scene is incredibly diverse. It reflects the country's multicultural society. You can hear music from all corners of the globe in Australian cities. There is a renewed interest and respect for Indigenous music. Many Indigenous artists are gaining recognition, blending traditional sounds with modern styles. This includes artists like Gurrumul Yunupingu and Baker Boy. Their music is beautiful and important. It helps to share Indigenous culture with a wider audience. This blending of old and new, local and global, makes the scene unique. In conclusion, Australian music has come a long way. It started with the ancient sounds of the didgeridoo and clapsticks. It was then changed by European folk songs and classical music. Over many years, unique Australian genres like bush ballads, country, rock, and pop developed. Today, the music scene is a rich mix of styles. It includes global stars and vibrant local acts. It celebrates Indigenous traditions alongside influences from around the world. Australian music continues to grow and change. It tells the ongoing story of this diverse nation.